Who is Kali? That's a good question. Kali, we don't know when she emerged. She may have emerged somewhere in 2nd, 3rd century AD, but she was definitely a goddess who originally belonged to the Dravidian people, pre-Aryan people, and she was revived during the revival of Hinduism, that means in the post-Buddhist period. And Kali in Bengal, in eastern India, people think Kali is mother. And she's mother, and she is like Mother Earth. In other words, she is a nurturer and a destroyer. Everything is cyclic: birth, death, and regeneration. Kali symbolizes that. The images of Kali that you will see are always images of creation and destruction. A lot of the images of Kali, as a matter of fact, are images of destruction, because only out of destruction does hope emerge, because they think of it as cyclic. For example, in the summer, all the plants, the grass, everything dies, and so there comes regeneration right after the summer when the monsoon rains come. And death was never considered as anything bad, as anything wrong, because in India, rebirth and people are born again and again, and so death is not the end all of existence. Death is the beginning of another life. So when there is death, there is the beginning of another life. When there's the death of the ego, then there is the beginning of the new person. When there's the death of greed, then there's the beginning of a new person. In the pre-Aryan times, the people that lived in India were dark complexioned, and they worshipped the goddess. And then came the Aryans, and they came in with their Vedic religion, and they came in with their Varna or caste system based on color. But again, when Hinduism re-emerged after Buddhism, when it was really Hinduism rather than Vedic religion, then you find the tribal gods, the pre-Vedic tribal gods and goddesses re-emerging. And that's when Shiva emerged, Krishna emerged, Vishnu, Kali, Durga. And blackness is not considered bad. It's the light white skies of summer that scorch and burn. It's the black thunderclouds of monsoon that give life to people. It is the concept of chaos that you have here, which is different from the concept that they have there. What Kali stands for is Kala. Kala is time, and time is black. And I don't think it really deals with chaos, because everything is in harmony, so there isn't chaos. And when there is chaos, that means Kali will come to revive harmony. There is no mention either of Durga or of Kali giving birth. So people call her mother, but that is one of the paradoxes. There is no concept of them even giving birth. There is Shiva there, but somehow they stand on their own as goddesses, the two of them, Kali and Durga, and there is no concept of necessarily there being even any kind of a relationship with a man. Although on the other hand, you do have Shiva being shown as lingam, which is the phallic symbol, and there is a yoni beneath the phallic symbol. In other words, Shiva's temples mostly don't have images of Shiva, just of the phallus and the yoni. But Kali's temples don't have children, and the only time you do see Shiva or the man, it's under her foot. You have to shed the ego, and the ego is considered male in order to attain liberation. And again, it's very hard, because The way you think of male as a man and female as a woman, that's not how it is conceived. Within every individual there is a male and a female. And the ego inside you and inside me is male. And when we have ego, that's how it's seen. Most of the images of Kali that you'll find is Kali standing on the body of Shiva. And usually what that symbolizes is the male ego, that you have to suppress the male ego within you to emerge in total harmony. And that does not mean that it's a man that has to be suppressed. It is the male ego in every one of us that has to be suppressed. Durga was created apparently because the gods were unable to fight Mahisasura, and so they used their energies to direct at one spot, and out of the spot came Durga. And Durga came with weapons in her arms, and she fought Mahisasura and defeated him. When Durga was very angry, out of her brow emerged Kali. That is the birth of Kali. First of all, remember, it's a living religion. Nobody has to imply anything. Like when you go to church, you don't say, why am I going and worshiping from the time you're a child, saying, now tell me, what does Christ imply that I'm going to go? Or what does this prayer imply before I can say my prayer? You say the prayer. It's only later on in life that you sometimes question. Many people don't question even later on in life. Remember, that's a living religion. When I was a child, I was 2 years old and 3 years old, taken to Kali temple was right in the family home. I never asked anybody, now tell me what this implies so that I can worship her. She was there. She's part of the house. When I enter the house even today, I have to go to the Kali temple first, because the first room in the house is the Kali temple. You cannot go through into the bedroom without going through the Kali temple. As a matter of fact, most of the priests in the goddess temples are men. Well, that is because if the goddess is female, then in order for union to happen, in order for children to be born, you have to have a male priest. And most of the temples of Jagannath or Shiva have female dancers, because the goddess then has to be female to unite with the male god. I don't see much of a relationship between Kali and the Black Madonna. There's much more of a relationship between Isis and Black Madonna than there is between Kali and Black Madonna. And also, this is my theory, and there's nothing that has been said about it, and we cannot, at this point, I cannot even prove what I'm saying. When you look at the early goddesses, you do not see Kali per se, because there is no record of the archaeological finds don't give us any kind of written data from the Indus Valley civilization. Now you see Kali emerging later on, which might mean that there was a syncretization of the Vedic religion, which was very patriarchal, along with the Dravidian religion that existed in the pre-Aryan times. And that may have given birth to Kali. There are similarities, there's no question about it. And the similarities would begin and end in the concept of mother, the concept of giving birth to children, or giving plenty of nourishment to children. In Isis, you have the image of the mother, you have Horus. As a matter of fact, I firmly believe that there is a good possibility that Isis is the Black Madonna. In other words, Isis and Horus, that myth, traveled from Egypt into to the north and became the Black Madonna. If Isis traveled, or the concept of the Black Goddess traveled from African countries to the north, I feel that there was a tremendous give and take between Egypt and ancient India. And obviously that image must have come from somewhere. And the Dravidians or the pre-Aryan people were dark people. That's why they were called demons, they were called Dasyus. They are the dark-skinned people. And there is definitely a connection between them and the people who gave birth to Isis. And so there is that connection, there's no question about it. And Kali is a product of that particular connection, because Kali is worshipped in eastern India and southern India primarily, and that is where the Aryans drove the inhabitants to, eastern India and southern India. What I mean by I don't see the connection is we don't see a child, and we also don't see the mother image where the mother is less important than the child. She brings that child up, and that's partially her job, is to raise that child. Well, Kali does not raise a child, and that's not her job. Her job is in herself. She is the universe. There is no male god that she nurtures. She is the universe. She is the beginning and end of all existence. She is everything, and out of her womb came all the gods, and out of her womb came all humans and all animals and all nature. And into her womb everything will go. She is the ultimate. Those are the verses from Sanskrit slokas that say she is the beginning and she is the end. She is everything. But again, remember, she is everything, but it does not deny the male. In other words, it does not say that there was no need for a male. That's why Shiva is there. Dakinis in Tibetan Buddhism is very similar also to the Tantric Buddhism of India. And in Tantra or Tantric Buddhism, again, the females are very, very significant. And that pervaded both Buddhism and Hinduism. So, just like in Hinduism, they're called the yoginis, who are black chloride goddesses or goddess images. The Dakinis in Buddhism had a similar function. Legendarily, the yoginis in Hinduism emerged out of goddess Durga's brow, and Kali emerged and yoginis emerged. In other words, they are the many faces of this one goddess in various ways. Yes, they do symbolize creation and destruction.
I'm trying to get this. So if Kali is the beginning and the end, then who's Durga?
It doesn't matter. They're all the same. If you look at an elephant, remember the story of the 6 blind men and the elephant? If an elephant is like a tree trunk, then what's the tail of the elephant? One person says that an elephant is like a rope. Another one says it's like a tree trunk. Right? It's like we see only one face of a many-faceted diamond, and we say that face is all that there is.
So it just depends on your perspective.
It depends on your perspective, and depends on where you're seeing it and how you're seeing it. And translated into human terms, I'm a mother, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a dancer. And you can say to me, but if you're a dancer, you can't be a mother. If you're a mother, you have to stop dancing.
How can modern people use the information that these goddesses provide, that Kali embodies?
First of all, I don't like the word use. Using is again an ego trip. I'm going to use you to do what I want. And that means I am more important than you. You're just a tool. You don't use the goddess. The goddess is. Nature is. You don't use nature. You respect nature. You respect the goddess. Because the goddess, to me, is not equal to God as we know him in the West, an almighty, pervasive. Goddess is in me, goddess is in you, goddess is in the tree. The goddess is in everything. In other words, there's an energy in everything, and that energy is the goddess. And she is Kali. And the moment we use a tree and we use the lumber and we use things, we destroy them. The moment you present an alternative, there has to be a very, very firm belief in that alternative. There has to be a caring in that whole alternative. And once that is presented as a caring, I have never had problems speaking about the goddess to all men gatherings where people have never heard of the concept of the goddess, and I've never had problems presenting it. But the moment you intellectualize something and you say, now this is an alternative religion, now you have to go through these rituals to get to this, and you can use these things this way to get so much money out of this, you have distorted the image. The moment I ask students to write linear papers for the concept of the goddess, I bought into the patriarchal system that tells me linear papers can be written on everything. The goddess is the experience of going out into the woods and hearing the crickets, hearing nature, watching a little squirrel play about and then taking a gun and shooting it. It's very difficult to do. And when you know that there's a goddess in there, because it is the female energy, it is the energy of creation that's in there. You can't destroy it. When I can go out and talk to people, I don't have any problems. People listen to me, people hear me. You cannot write a book or write a linear paper or get people together and say, now you have to start believing because I said so. Then you bought into a system that they're very familiar with. I don't push anything, because the moment it is pushed, then we bought into a system that where the goddess is not.
Does Kali represent a healing goddess to her worshippers? Is she attributed with miracles or anything like that from people who pray to her?
Miracles in what sense?
People who were healed, cured of things.
Oh, yes. But then there's a whole belief system that it's going to happen, that there's going to be a cure. There's a whole positive energy that goes in the thinking. When you don't see death as the end of existence, rather as the beginning of a new life, you're looking at a whole different philosophy of life. When you know that if you want something and something is good, it's going to happen. There's no question about it. It never does not happen. It always happens because there's no question about it happening.